So one movie that comes out, let's see, tomorrow is Annihilation. This is based on the what is it, Vandermeer book, the part of the first book of the trilogy of the Southern Reach. Awesome sci-fi books. I read the first book. I read the second book. I saw the trailer for Annihilation, and I have no idea what Annihilation is about exactly because, and if you read the book, this shouldn't be news to you. It looks like a pretty major departure from what goes on in the book. The book is very cerebral and very kind of spacey, a little bit. Remind me a bit of like Lord of the Flies, with some kind of like psychological horror thrown in. The movie Annihilation is getting really good reviews right now. It's sitting around, I don't know, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it also looks, if you didn't tell me this was based on a book that I read, I wouldn't know that it was. And I'm kind of conflicted about that because it's from the writer-director of Ex Machina, Alex Garland, who's shown to be like a really awesome director and seems to get sci-fi. But it also, I'm going to go in there with a bunch of preconceived notions about what this could or should be. Apparently, he started writing the script before before the trilogy had been finished, so he hadn't read the second two books, which add a ton of context to this kind of world that he's creating stuff in. So I don't know. I'm always very torn with that. If you read the book, you create this entire world in your head, and then you go to a movie and you're like, oh, well, the main character doesn't look like that at all. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. I mean, so that's an odd sort of scenario because you were very excited for this movie.
I still am.
And it made you want to read the book, and now you're kind of like, oh, I'm kind of torn.
Honestly, I sort of wish. I guess I'm glad I read the book because I like the book, and I'm gonna read. I still need to read the third book, but I'm like, it's funny because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read the book, then I'll watch the trailer, then I don't know what's going on, and I'm like, I watch the trailer and I'm like, oh, none of this is so much of this isn't in the book. And so I'm like, okay, so he took some liberties. So I have ideas of where I think things are going, but I also don't really know. So I don't. It's just such an odd like sort of quandary to be in because my expectations are completely out in left field right now. Where I'm like, oh, it's a well-received movie that's based on a book that I read that the movie isn't based on. It might as well not be based on it at all, you know. So yeah, I guess that's cool. Anyway, the movie's supposed to be good, and that's out this weekend. Annihilation looks pretty cool, and hopefully people go see it, unlike a bunch of other movies that we really enjoyed that nobody saw. And hey, speaking of books that are very different from the movies, have you ever read the Akira manga? Because it's really good. Check out those videos and watch Up at Noon every Thursday at noon Pacific time on IGN. Goodbye.